A very good evening and a Merry Christmas to all of our viewers. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. I'm Zinat Musafa for the Newsfirst team. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Christian devotees worldwide celebrate the dawn of Christmas Day while adhering to health guidelines. Pope Francis conducts Christmas Eve Mass at the St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. Swathes of people gather in Kegol to obtain the anti-COVID-19 tonic. Government decides to expeditiously re-export consignments of agricultural waste imported from Ukraine. Who imported the agricultural waste? Massers take to the streets against MPs.
Millions of Christians are engaged in Christmas celebrations across the world to mark the birth of Jesus Christ. This year's celebrations have been subdued due to COVID-19, with social distancing and other restrictions coming into effect.
Pope Francis conducted the Mass of Christmas Eve at St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican at 7:30 p.m. Vatican time. Millions of people were able to follow the ceremony through radio, television and various means of social communications. The attendance at the Mass, usually recorded in massive numbers, was restricted this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Parola del Signore. Questa notte si compie la grande profezia di Isaia.
The birth of Jesus Christ was a gift from God, underlying all our strengths and weaknesses, stronger than all our past hurts and failures or our fears and concerns about the future. There is this great truth. We are beloved sons and daughters. God's love for us does not and never will depend upon us. It is completely free love, pure grace.
Devotees across the globe attended the Christmas Eve Mass with the use of online technology this year.
Christian devotees celebrate the noble Christmas Day today, which signifies the birth of Jesus Christ. Christmas brings with it a message of renewed hope, peace and coexistence. On a day like today, 2020 years ago, a bright star shone in the sky of Bethlehem, signaling the coming of the Messiah to the world. Born to save mankind from sin, Jesus Christ played an immense role in rescuing all people from suffering. Millions of Christians worldwide celebrate with great devotion the Messiah who guided them to salvation. The main Christmas Mass in Sri Lanka was held under the auspices of the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, at midnight last night at the St. Sebastian's National Shrine in Kandana. The midnight Mass saw minimum public attendance and was held adhering to health guidelines.
මේ අවුරුද්දේ මුළු ලෝකයේ පුරාවටම පැතිරිලා ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන මේ කොවිඩ් වසංගතය නිසා
In a time where the COVID-19 pandemic has caused much grief to mankind, we have to celebrate this Christmas humbly. We need to be empathetic towards those who are suffering due to this pandemic. It is wrong to act selfishly to fulfill personal pleasures and desires. I would like to make a request from everyone. Celebrate this Christmas while keeping the best interest and safety of others at heart.
මේ රටේ අනිකුත් පුරවැසියන්ගේ ආරක්ෂාවත් සලකාගෙන මේ නත්තල් ප්‍රීතිය බැහැපත්ව සමරන්නට කටයුතු කරන්න.
Numerous midnight masses were held at churches island-wide in keeping with health and safety guidelines. The Mass at the St. Anthony's Shrine was held this afternoon. The Christmas Mass at the St. Sebastian's Church in Katuapitiya was held this morning, where candles were lit in remembrance of those who lost their lives tragically during the April 21st attacks. A special mass was held at the historic Christ Church in Baddegama, Galle this morning. The Mahasangha also attended the service to highlight religious harmony and to share the joy of Christmas. Special security plans were in place at Christian places of worship in light of Christmas Day today. In his Christmas Day message, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said, quote, "Christmas is a noble religious event which inspires the devotion of millions of Christians in God around the world," unquote. He added, quote unquote, "It exemplifies the noble values that make up the foundation of civilized human society, such as peace, love, kindness, coexistence and compassion that Jesus Christ preached and demonstrated by practice." Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has said, quote, "The birth of Jesus is a time for spreading goodwill and appreciating one's blessings," unquote. The Prime Minister in his Christmas Day message said he hopes that the spirit of Christmas would fill one's heart with positivity, courage and hope. Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa has said, quote, "Christmas is a holy festival that embodies the incarnation of God on earth," unquote. He added that it was the greatest contribution rendered by Jesus Christ to entire mankind. Former President Maithripala Sirisena has said that, quote, "Christmas teaches the people a valuable message on humility, compassion and the respect paid to all living beings on earth," unquote. He added, "The teachings of Christianity are a guidance to revive the world that has been affected economically, socially and culturally due to the COVID-19 pandemic." In his Christmas message, Asad Sali, the leader of the National Unity Front, said, "Let us pray today that the birth of Jesus Christ brings light to remove the darkness that surrounds the world, as well as to ensure prosperity for the people of the country to reach the end of the tunnel to breathe an air of freedom, independence, justice and security." He added, quote, "Let us pray for peaceful coexistence and prosperity of the nation where its citizens lead a normal life in happiness and harmony," unquote.
Main sponsor.
Legends 966 this season. A collection of the most memorable songs, Christmas hits and family favorites 24/7. Tune in now.
Due to the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the country, more areas were isolated today.
Head of the Operations Center for the Prevention of COVID-19 Outbreak, Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva said Dikwella Yonakapura East and Yonakapura West Gram Niladhari divisions in the Madra district have been named as isolated areas. Meanwhile, using the expressway, COVID-19 tests were conducted on those who exit the Western Province today as well. According to health authorities, COVID-19 tests were conducted on 112 individuals today.
Vice Chairman of the Airport and Aviation Services Limited, Rajiv Suryarachi, says a group of Russian tourists who were expected to arrive in Sri Lanka on the 27th of this month had cancelled the tour.
The Sri Lankan government decided to reopen its airports for tourist arrivals from the 26th of this month, ending a temporary closure of its borders which was imposed in March following the onset of COVID-19 in the country. However, a group of Russian tourists who were scheduled to arrive at the Katunayake airport on the 27th have abandoned the tour.
Plans were drawn to welcome visitors from Russia and the surrounding region from the 27th onwards. Accordingly, a group of tourists were to arrive in the country on the 27th morning on an aircraft operated by Aerolov or Russian Airlines. However, it has been cancelled by the airline. Another group from Ukraine will be arriving on the 28th and the 29th at the Matala airport. This is a pilot project. Based on the success of this, we will decide whether the borders will be open for tourists from other countries or not.
මේ ෆ්ලයිට් වලට අය කරන ගාස්තු යම් කිසි විදියකින් අඩු කිරීමක් සිදු කරා කියලා අපිට පසුගිය කාලයේ තොරතුරු වාර්තා වුණා. ඒතකොට මේවා අඩු කරේ මේ යුක්‍රේන සහ මේ රෂ්‍යා මේ ෆ්ලයිට්ස් ඉලක්ක කරගෙනමද? ඒකේ සම්පූර්ණ සාවද්‍ය කරුණක්.
That is completely false. It was not done with the view of making this pilot project more attractive. The minister advised us to provide these concessions in keeping with the vision of the government to convert the Mattala airport into an important airport in the region.
A paid COVID-19 insurance cover has been made mandatory for tourists visiting Sri Lanka under a pilot tourism project expected to begin this week. Health Ministry guidelines showed the insurance cover should be purchased through the tourism app or at the time of booking a hotel or purchasing the flight ticket. The pilot project, limited to a week, will allow 300 tourists to enter the country daily for a mandatory 2-week stay. According to the guidelines, a PCR test conducted 96 hours before boarding by an accredited lab identified by Sri Lankan missions would be a prerequisite. Tourists are also required to undergo 3 PCR tests after arrival within 2 weeks. The same laboratory must be chosen for all tests. The guidelines insist that tourists will be allowed to stay at a hotel approved by the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. The Health Ministry declared that quote-unquote free movement would not be allowed in the first 2 weeks and that travelling outside the hotel would also be prohibited for a week.
People flocked in hundreds today to the residence of Dhammika Bandara, who claims to have developed a cure for COVID-19. But the crowds were forced to return empty-handed as the herbal tonic was not distributed among them.
People from various parts of the country gathered opposite the residence of Dhammika Bandara in Kegol since 4 a.m. today. Our correspondent reported that people had gathered in long queues extending until the Otnapitiya road to obtain a herbal tonic claimed to be a cure for COVID-19. Attempts taken by the Kegol police to disperse the crowds proved futile. At around 12:30 p.m, Dhammika Bandara had informed the crowds that the tonic would not be distributed today.
මොකද කියන්නේ? ඇයි දෙන්නේ නැත්තේ? ඇයි දෙන්නේ නැත්තේ? ගහකට එළුණා නේ මෙතෙන් ටික පන්නනවා දෙයියෝ. නන්න කීයේ ඉඳන් ඉන්නේ? ආයෙත් විතර. ඇයි ගහන්නේ? අපි මේ වර්ධකාරය යනවා අපහාස කරලා කියලා. මේ එනවා මොකද ඔක්කොම එන්නේ.
Meanwhile, a group including the chairman of the Varakapala Pradesh Sabha commented on the herbal tonic during a media briefing today. The number of people seeking this treatment has increased. Around 10,000 people had stepped out in search of this medicine. Instead of seeking validation, it is important to consider whether the tonic is worth it. So far, no allergies have been reported by consuming it. The upper class of the country has consumed this portion. He has been deprived of credit for developing a cure for COVID-19. I met him last evening. He said he had distributed the tonic while incurring an expenditure of more than 2 million rupees without the support of anyone. Therefore, he told me that he would be giving up on the medication since no one is supporting him. I promised that it would be given to the people in my area. Therefore, I provided this to the people of Otnapitiya, although no one stood by me. He reiterated that he would be stepping aside from manufacturing the tonic. On the 23rd of this month, Dhammika Bandara had received permission to manufacture Ayurvedic products. Some media reports showed officials of the Department of Ayurveda claiming that they did not meet him. If that is the case, who met him? This creates mistrust among the people. We do not have to spread distrust among the people. The potion has not been approved as a medication against COVID-19. Some ministers are claiming that it could be used as a supplement. But the Ayurveda Commission has not uttered a word on this. Commissioner of Ayurveda Chatura Kumaratunga told Newsfirst that Dhammika Bandara had been granted permission to manufacture the potion since the 23rd of this month. He noted that the medicine can be manufactured under the supervision of the indigenous medical practitioner's consultant physician. The Commissioner of Ayurveda added that the tonic has not been recognized as a medication for COVID-19 and it has only been approved as a syrup. The people lost faith in this medicine after it was claimed to have originated from goddess Kali and other bizarre sources. This is not a medicine from goddess Kali. If the potion had been developed under traditional Ayurvedic methods and has gained the acceptance of the people, then the government must be held responsible. The government must bear responsibility for the validity of the product. No one will believe if it is claimed that the tonic has been produced by invisible forces. Tonics are being manufactured in several areas. We are totally unaware of its ingredients, but the ministers are consuming it. I wish to tell Pavitra Vanyarachi that this disease cannot be cured by consuming the tonic or offering it to parliamentarians. I request the validity of the tonic to be confirmed after testing it on patients by bringing them under the purview of these medical practitioners. We only have faith on a vaccine. This is not the vaccine we hope to bring down to Sri Lanka. During the past decade, several vaccines have been introduced to Sri Lanka. There is a procedure that we follow. It must be adopted in this instance as well. Should we wait until the World Health Organization grants final approval for these vaccines? Shouldn't we be proactive? Between 60 to 70% of the population must be vaccinated.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa expressed views regarding the COVID-19 vaccine and anti-COVID-19 tonic.
You saw how some people, including the minister, drinking liters of that tonic. Do you know why this drama involving the tonic was created? Because it's easier to give this fake tonic rather than bringing a quality vaccine from abroad. That is the truth. This is not an insult to Ayurvedic medicine. That generation of medical experts conducts tests to ensure the quality of the medicine before prescribing them. They certify their importance. This tonic does not have any certification. The WHO has stated that a vaccine should be given to 20% of the population. If that's the case, does the other 80% get this tonic? Why couldn't this so-called government of intellectuals have made agreements with the relevant companies to receive a vaccine? Friends, this government can't do so. Now, at the last moment, they're going around the world asking for loans. Why? To get the vaccine. Attention should have been given to this matter several months ago. Why didn't they do it? Several months ago, the state of the people did not matter to them, since passing the 20th was the only concern they had. There is no health sector. Health officials are frustrated. I make this request from the President very sincerely. Sanjeeva Munasinghe is a talented doctor. Give him a suitable position and appoint someone else as the Secretary to the Ministry of Health. The former Director General of Health Services is currently planting saplings. If a person as skilled and experienced as him is being tasked with planting saplings, that is a waste of valuable human resource. We do not know who advised the President on this, but please remove him from the current position and task him with the duty of removing the plant named Corona. This government is incapable of doing anything right. The talented ones have been pushed aside. Dr. Anil Jasinghe is planting saplings. He spearheaded the fight against the first wave of COVID-19. This government fears talented officials. They believe those individuals will eventually emerge in the political arena against them. The government is attempting to function with a bunch of senile officials such as the economic hitman P.B. Jayasundara or the inexperienced group from Viatmaga. The talented ones in this government are idling.
In more local news, the government has decided to lodge a complaint at the office of the Basel Convention over the agricultural waste imported to Sri Lanka from Ukraine. Issuing a communique regarding the matter, the Ministry of Environment said importing agricultural waste from one country to another is strictly prohibited under the Basel Convention.
28 containers of agricultural plant waste had been imported from Ukraine recently by declaring it as coriander seeds. Authorities have identified the exporter as a Ukrainian company named Agronica Trade. 8 containers had reached the country on the 10th of this month, while the remaining consignments had arrived on the 21st. The imported stocks have been valued at 75 million rupees, exclusive of taxes. The Department of Customs revealed to Newsfirst that it would not divulge the identity of the 8 consignees who had imported the consignments to the country. The importers had informed the customs department that they would be procuring coriander seeds from other countries and that an intermediary had recommended the purchase of the commodity from Ukraine due to its low cost. Minister of Environment Mahinda Amaravira said the veracity of the claims made by the importers will be investigated. We have paid special attention towards this. We will investigate and find out whether the Ukrainian firm had deceived the local importers or whether it was the local importers who have deceived us. I have directed the Ministry Secretary and the Central Environment Authority to carry out inquiries. Following a fully fledged investigation, we will take legal action against any entity that has committed an act of wrongdoing.
දින කීපයකට පෙර පැවති අපගේ බාසල් කමිටුවේ මේ පිළිබඳව සාකච්ඡා කරා.
This was discussed at the Basel committee meeting, which was held a few days ago. It has been decided to re-export these containers to Ukraine immediately. We have notified the Sri Lankan customs to act in this regard. The Sri Lanka customs will also carry out investigations to ascertain the finer details of this incident. We suspect this was a form of deception. We expect to lodge a complaint with the Basel Convention Office situated in Geneva.
මේ සිදුවීම් පිළිබඳව අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා වහාම ජිනීවාහි බාසල් සම්මුතිය පිළිබඳ මධ්‍යස්ථානයට වාර්තා කිරීමට.
Newsfirst made inquiries into the company named Agronica Trade that was identified as the exporter by the Sri Lanka Customs. Attempts to reach the Ukrainian establishment through the contact number and email address provided on its website did not elicit an immediate response. The building of the company based on the address provided on its website could be seen in this manner. 24 containers seized by the Sri Lanka Customs are at the Colombo port, while 4 containers are lying at the examination yard of the Sri Lanka Customs.
ලෝකේ ජාවාරම් කීපයක් තියෙනවා. එකක් තමයි බේජ් ජාවාරම්.
There are several widespread rackets taking place across the globe. This includes pharmaceutical products, narcotics and waste material. The consignments had been imported under the names of 8 businessmen in PETA. Ultimately, it is the innocent businessmen who have to pay the price. But there are large-scale companies behind these rackets. The main companies involved in these rackets must be uncovered through any means and must be sealed. Their assets must be confiscated due to the activities that they are carrying out against all living beings on earth.
මේ මහ පොළොවට මේ ජීවියට මේ සබහ දහමට මේ රටේ මිනිස්සුන්ට මේ ජීවීන්ට සත්වයින්ට කරන විනාශයට එරෙහිව.
A protest was staged in Kahatagasdigiliya today, demanding the development of a main road that is currently decrepit.
The main road starting from the Kahatagasdigiliya junction running across the villages of Kotapokuna, Moragahalava, Hettinatya and Katukaliava have been utilized by residents for decades. However, a 7-kilometer stretch of this road is in a severely dilapidated state. Residents allege requests made to state officials and politicians for the development of this road have proved futile for nearly 2 decades.
Elephants enter this area at around 4 p.m. The children cannot travel in peace with their parents as they can be attacked by elephants.
Area residents took to the streets today, frustrated by their pleas falling on deaf ears. They staged their demonstration with banners containing the images of politicians elected to parliament from the Anuradhapura district. Two state ministers, 2 ministers and the chairman of the district development committee are from the Anuradhapura district. If they cannot develop this road despite holding such power, we will refuse our polling cards at the next election. We will not vote for them. The people of Ranpathwila will abstain from voting next time.
The uniforms of our children become dirty when returning from school. If a person falls ill, we can't transport them along the road, especially at night. We have been deceived several times. They dump gravel on the road as a temporary measure and ultimately fill their pockets.
If authorities are claiming that we have not brought this to their attention, that is false. If my fingers could talk, they would serve as a testament to prove the countless number of letters we have written to the Pradesh Sabha members regarding this issue. The OIC of the Katagas Diglia Police allowed area residents to pour out their concerns to State Minister Duminda Disanayaka. Listen to the minister. He is saying that the president will visit the area on the 30th. Therefore, he is asking for a letter with all your signatures stating your request, and that he would expedite the process by discussing it with the president.
Venerable Dr. Omalpe Sobitathero claims the arbitrary transfer of national assets to foreign corporations is a serious offence. The Venerable Thero expressed these views while commenting on the complication which has arisen with regard to the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port.
The arbitrary transfer of national assets is a serious offence, regardless of whether it is the East Container Terminal, Hambantota Port or any other asset. We request the government to stop committing that crime. They are selling off resources which belong to future generations. It is wrong to do this in order to pay off a loan, fulfill a political promise or any other reason. This applies to any government, past, present and future. If any national asset is being transferred to a foreign entity, that is an act of treason.
යම් සම්පතක් බහැරට දෙනවා නම් විකුණනවා නම් ඒක දේශද්‍රෝහී ක්‍රියාවක් හැටියට අපි හඳුනාගත යුතුයි.
Meanwhile, Indian farmers today staged protests demanding to repeal laws that allow powerful businesses, including the Adani Group, which is said to be investing in Sri Lanka's East Container Terminal, to exploit their agricultural produce and acquire land. The Indian government has sent a fresh invite to the protesting farmers, inviting them for the talks and asked them to choose a date of their convenience to end the impasse over the 3 farm laws. The Prime Minister also interacted virtually with farmers from 6 states, during which he said, quote, "Some parties pushing political agenda by opposing new farm laws. Some people spreading myth and lies that land will be taken away if farmers enter into contract farming," unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi released 180,000 million Indian rupees as the next installment of financial benefits under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme in the bank accounts of 9 crore farmers today. Modi enabled the transfer of money at an event which the ruling BJP has made into a mega exercise to reach out to farmers by having its leaders interact with the farming community at more than 19,000 venues across the country. Meanwhile, yesterday, senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi led a party delegation to President Ramnath Kovind seeking his intervention for repeal of the 3 farm laws. A memorandum submitted by the party said, quote, "Autocratic Modi government was refusing to hear the agony and anguish of the farmers." A group of 7 American lawmakers, 6 Democrats and a Republican, has written to US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on the farmers' protest, expressing serious concern over the ongoing civil unrest in India. The letter asks Mike Pompeo to reach out to his counterpart, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, on the issue.
While farmers in India are fighting for their production and land rights, farmers in Sri Lanka are fighting to obtain the insurance money receivable for army caterpillar crop damage. The people in Pannalagama, Ampara, are the perfect example for this issue.
The main livelihood for the people of Pannalagama in Ampara is farming. They mainly engage in corn cultivation. These farmers claim that they had to incur not only the damage caused to the crops by the fall armyworm, or commonly called the Sena caterpillar, but also the farmer insurance compensation.
These are receipts of last year's crop insurance. They were issued by the insurance board. So far I haven't received any money. For this acre, the total cost I had to incur is 40,000. A collective insurance has been put for floods and droughts. In addition, 2.5 acres have been insured for 1,000 rupees for insects and other diseases. It was in the Mantota agrarian unit. The farmers have no idea how much they will receive.
The people who gathered at the temple in the village submitted their grievances in writing to the agricultural research officer.
What we request from this government is to pay us fair compensation for the damages caused by the fall armyworm to our corn cultivation. We have no other way to live.
While Christians in the Americas, Europe, India, Russia and elsewhere have had to curtail their holiday celebrations due to coronavirus restrictions and widespread infections in some parts of the world, the holiday is set to proceed a little bit more like it normally does.
Most of the Christmas celebrations in Europe were cancelled or greatly scaled back as COVID-19 infections surge across the continent and a new variant that may be contagious has been detected. Meanwhile, yesterday, Bethlehem ushered in Christmas Eve with a stream of joyous marching bands and the triumphant arrival of the top Catholic clergymen in the Holy Land, but few people were there to greet them as the coronavirus pandemic and a strict lockdown dampened celebrations in the traditional birthplace of Jesus. Americans marked a grim Christmas Eve as coronavirus infections exploded nationwide. Political leaders warned them to not travel or gather in large groups. The ability to mix with people from 3 different households in a Christmas bubble from the 23rd to the 27th of December was scrapped entirely as the UK government introduced strict Tier 4 social distancing restrictions in London and swathes of the southeast, about a third of England. The Queen, 94, and Prince Philip, 99, have been living at Windsor Castle during the pandemic with a small household staff. In Australia, worshippers had to book tickets online to attend socially distanced church services. The Philippines prohibited mass gatherings and barred extended families from holding traditional Christmas Eve dinners. Traditional door-to-door children carols were cancelled in Greece.
And that's a wrap of Prime Time News for today. You can log on to our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk and our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Zeenat Musafir, joined by our news interpreter Tarika Gabriel via Zoom. Thank you for watching Newsfirst. Good night and take care.